Okay, I didn't want to be the first thing that showed up. Okay, so this is Math 25 Elementary Statistics, and I'm your summer instructor, or if I use the same video during the regular semester, I'm your whatever instructor, and my name is Jameson Burrell. So this video, it might go fast, but it's going to be a long video regardless, so you're going to need to pause and rewind and watch it over and over all day long. So you've probably already been here, but when you log in, you're going to go to your My West Hills page. You're going to follow all the way through into the portal, and over on the side are your online classes. These are the pages that we use here at West Hills for our learning management system and online classes. You've probably already seen this video, which directed you to get this orientation video, and you've probably already downloaded the syllabus here and the registration form. In fact, well, I'll go ahead and click on this registration form right now. So this is really important that you follow these directions very carefully. I'm going to make a comment about them, specifically in this part of it where it says, if you do not have a Pearson account, click Create. Now, when you create it and you follow the steps to put your name in, you need to make sure that you put your name in exactly as it is in your West Hills registration, meaning last name in the last name field, first name in the first name field. I know those sound ridiculous, but there are people that don't follow these directions. You need to capitalize the first letter of the last name and capitalize the first letter of the last name. If this is not already the case, that you've either used nicknames in the past or you got married and your registration has changed, and so now you've got a different last name, and your current MyMathLab account, if you have one, is created with anything other than what you have registered with My West Hills, with the college, then you need to delete that account or start a new account, or contact Pearson through help and support and find out how to change it, because I may remove you from the class. I leave it as an option for me to remove you from the class if you don't have the exact matching ID. So what I mean by that is, let me come back over here. Here are some of the students in our class. Welcome, Marissa. Okay, you need to put your last name exactly like this and their first name exactly like this. And there'll be two separate fields. Make sure you get them in the right spot. I actually think that they put the first name field first and the last name field second when you're registering for MyMathLab or MyStatLab. Follow those directions exactly. We have a huge class here. In fact, because we have such a huge class, I really don't need to pander to people who aren't going to follow directions. So for any of these reasons, I can drop you if you don't follow those directions. Or let's get to the syllabus, which you already printed, and let's just jump to one part of it, which I hope you've already read. If you don't have your course compass material by the 6th, then I can also drop you. And there's no reason not to when I have a dozen people on the wait list. So take this seriously, follow directions very specifically. In fact, while I'm in here, if you didn't already read this on the syllabus, which I hope you have, and you have needs for closed captioning specifically, I think all the other accommodations are here. My material has screen reader accessibility, and zooming is obviously not a problem. But if you need closed captioning, you need to let me know, because some of the videos don't have closed captioning, and I'll have to get those in place before I start deploying them for class use. You should come to the syllabus. Your syllabus will be separated per section. Get down all that information, or just at least have this in a location where you can access it easily. Follow the specific steps to get yourself registered. Maybe this is a question you might have. Do you have to have the physical copy of the book that I had here, or is it okay just to have the MyMathLab copy? It's okay to have just the MyMathLab copy, but I do need you to read the book, because this is an online class where you won't meet for lecture, and even if you met for lecture, you'd need to read the book. So if you're going to be able to use a tablet or a smartphone or the internet to read the textbook, then that's fine. You can just get the MyMathLab access. Otherwise, I need you to get the physical book, and you can change your mind later. You can get a copy of the book after you've already had the access for a while, if you're finding that it's not as easy to read. or you're just not comfortable with it. And I don't care if you use the California edition of the 12th edition, or even the 11th edition for reading and 10th edition for reading. But as far as the content that we're going to use for Course Compass or My Math Lab, I go between those names because it used to be Course Compass. I'm sorry about that. Then you're going to use this ID, and so we'll all be registered in with this version of it. Okay. While I'm on the syllabus, I'm just going to highlight a few more things. You can ask me questions. It's pretty self-explanatory. Oh, but this I wanted to discuss with you. So this is an online class, but we do meet for 2 tests they're required to meet for, the midterm and the final. My other option, and I'll show you where I get these options from, was to meet or have proctored every single test. So let me take you to the course outline. So these courses are not something that I individually can decide, how I want to teach and what I want to do. There are requirements. There's certain content objectives that we want to get through, and we can look at this later if you like. But in the list of things that I can and can't do, here's one of those things that I don't get a choice for, and you may not be able to read it very well here. You can pause and come back if you want. Try that. It says that either all the tests must be proctored, and that's by me, or by an approved proctor, and we have a proctoring form for you to be able to get them approved if it's going to be somewhere else because you're in a location like Japan or Oregon State. Anyway, or you could have at least one midterm, which is the choice I went with, only one midterm, and the final. So this is the way I set up the class. Proctored with a minimum requirement of 70% on the average of those 2, the midterm and the final. Or if I put more midterms, it would be more, but I didn't. Let me show you my layout. And all these files that I have are either available on the West Hills webpage, like the course outline that we were just looking at, and the distance education addendum, or they're available on my Dropbox page. So if it's not available there, I'll have it in the Dropbox. Here's our outline for the semester, or the session, and it tells you that we're going to start right away on the first day doing section 1.2. Reading section 1.1, but that's like a half-page introduction. It's not much to say there, and there's no homework for it. In fact, let me quickly state that all the chapters have a section 1 that doesn't have homework for it. It's just an overview. If you were to skip any pages, it could be those, because you're going to go through all the sections after, and the sections are going to go through what you need homework on. So then Tuesday we'll be doing homework for 1.3 and 1.4. Then we'll have a quiz on chapter 1, so I hope you're done by the time you want to do the quiz. That quiz will be due at midnight, and it'll be midnight on the time zone I choose. And I'm not going to necessarily tell you, but I'll tell you it's at least Pacific Standard Time. But it could be Hawaii Standard Time, or Hawaii time, whatever they call it. In which case, you might actually have a few more hours, but it's going to be on the clock from midnight of whatever time zone we choose. Now, here's all the homework, and I stated, as we said before, that there'll be a midterm on the 25th. This is on campus in room 467, and it's with me, where you show an ID, in case anyone was planning on having someone else take it for them. You're going to be showing an ID, and I'm going to validate that you are who you say you are. I'm going to have you log into your My Math Lab account for the material, so you have to have a My Math Lab account. You're going to be dropped by the 6th anyway if you didn't. And then we'll have the final on the 1st. Okay, now I just said all that, and I want to take it back. I'd actually like to have the final on the 24th, or the midterm on the 24th, and the final on the 31st, because it works a whole lot better for my schedule. And nothing actually is in print on the schedule when you signed up that requires me to keep them on the 25th and the 1st. So we're going to talk about this in Piazza. It'll be the first thing we talk about just to get discussion rolling. All right, so anyways, you can look through the rest of the schedule. You might notice that it's weighted, there's more work or busy work earlier in the semester, and then you start to do weeks where, this second to last week, there's only 3 sections that are actually new there. But it's because those sections take a little bit more to digest and consume. So we're going to have we're going to have our hands full. Let me go ahead and do a little calculation for you, by the way. This is a 4-unit class, which means that normally you would meet for 4 hours of lecture per week. And since this is summertime, that would basically be meaning like 8 hours, because we go twice as fast per week, right? So we should be able to expect 8 hours for lecture. And that's meaning reading the book, watching the online videos, and watching some animations. You probably have time for that, because we're not actually going to meet for lecture, right, since it's online. And then the way the units are described in the catalog, you're supposed to be spending 2 hours outside of every lecture hour doing your studying and your homework and those other things. So for these 8 hours, you're going to be spending another 16 hours outside, and this is for 1 week. So in 1 week, you should be spending 24 hours on this class. Well, let's go ahead and just divide that up for 5 days. That means you should be spending 4 hours, almost 5 hours per week for all of these weeks here. So, sorry, per day. 4.8 hours per day on this class. Are you going to spend 5 hours per day to do what it takes? I hope you don't need 5 hours per day, but that's the expectation according to the way that we define our units and hours of study. So I'm not trying to scare anyone off here. I'm just trying to be clear about what expectations we have for you. All right, let's see here. Let's go to your Course Compass or your MyMathLab webpage. If you haven't seen this before, I guess I can take a step back. After you register, and that's going to be done by following the steps that I already pointed out earlier. After you register, you'll see our course somewhere over here. If you've had MyMathLab before, you might see another course there, but go ahead and click on ours. It'll open up to the timeline and assignments due page. Double check those things, make sure you're keeping up with assignments. There's actually some bonuses for some things. If you do them early, you get extra credit. And then there's the Piazza link here. This is the blank page. We haven't added anything in here yet. I don't know if you'll have access to this, but I'll show you an old class that I had last summer, where we can discuss anything from, has anyone gotten a hold of Mr. Burrell? If you need to get a hold of me, if you have a question, I like it actually when you guys get a chance to answer your own questions, but mine sometimes can be done better, like how to find the p-value or something. So anyways, there's the discussion board. Here's the syllabus, another copy for you in case you're on the road. Some tools for success, you'll want to check those out, especially these little applets that demonstrate certain topics, but I'll be directing your attention to some of these as well. Okay, then the homework folder. So this is where you do your homework. Now when you first open it, I'm going to go ahead and enlarge the view here. You may see something like this because I'm showing everything for the entire semester. You can click on just homework if you'd like and see what sections are due. This is following that pacing guide. And click on the actual assignments. If you don't have the right browser tools, ask me questions or ask other people questions. I will say this, if you're using an iPad, even though it's not Flash enabled natively, Flash meaning, let me just open an example. What's happening right now is a player called Flash Player is opening to be able to view the homework problem and do the homework. Even though the iPads and iPhones are not able to do that natively, there is an app, one's for free called Puffin, Puffin, and another one, and then there's the paid version, and then there's another one called Photon browser and Puffin browser. You want to talk more about that, we'll use Piazza. Anyways, they've got simple explanations and directions here. It says what's a voluntary response bias. By this point you've read section 1.2, so you're going to say so voluntary response, sample, not bias. Okay, we'll talk about bias later. Voluntary response is the kind of survey where the people who participate can choose to get into it or not get into it by either answering or not answering. So a sample in which the response no opinion or no, that's not it. Sample in which it's very large, no, it could be small. In fact, that's sometimes the bias that you get from a voluntary response sample, is that not everyone decides to participate. Sample in which researchers decide which subjects include. No, not the researchers, but the subjects themselves. So read all the options, click it. It'll tell you how you did. It'll sometimes give you more information. You should pause and go through, digest. You're kind of doing learning on top of learning because you read and then you answer homework questions, but then you read a little bit more when those windows come up and you learn a little bit more. When you want the textbook, this will open up the textbook for that problem, and then it'll close it when you go to another problem. You've also got these other tools we'll talk about later. All right, so that's the Flash player and how you'll view homework and do homework. They aren't all multiple choice, so if you're getting excited about that, calm down. They're not all multiple choice. Yeah, then we're going to have some quizzes and tests. Again, I said you can view show all or homework or quizzes and tests, so those are on the pacing schedule. I will say something which we already are going to say in Piazza. You cannot get into these unless you put in the password, and I think it is capital R-E-A-D-Y, ready. Let's test that out. Okay, and the reason I made a password is because, first of all, it needs to be you who's doing it, and that means that you've followed the syllabus and joined us on Piazza, and you're not having some friend do this for you. You could give your friend the password, but that would be even more unethical, but you'll know that you're doing something wrong because you're giving away a password you were supposed to put in. And then it also gives you one more pause before you start it. Here's the other pause. You can say, I'm ready to start, or say, wait, this is the chapter 1? Okay, I don't want to start that because I can't, in an online class, I can't have you guys telling me, oh, I didn't mean to start that, or I wasn't sure which chapter I clicked on. So you're going to get that extra pause when you put in the password. Similarly for the midterm and final, but I'll be with you or your proctor will be with you at that time. And so I just don't even have those enabled yet. In fact, going back to the homework, this is stated in the syllabus that you can do some late homework. This homework is supposed to be due, actually let me go back to the beginning. This homework is supposed to be due on the 6th, but you can actually turn it in late for a 5% penalty as late as the, whatever the Sunday is after that, the 8th. So anyway, but it's funny that I say with a penalty because that's the password. The password to get in for these late homeworks is capital P-E-N-T-A-L-Y. Penalty, if I spelled that right. Penalty. What else do I need to show you before I go? I don't want this orientation to go on forever. Here's the access to the online textbook. When you try to access it from a tablet or smartphone, smart device, it will ask you if you want to download the e-text. It's not going to do it here because I'm using my laptop. And I'm not even going to wait for it to load there because I already have it loaded. But it will ask you on those devices. So go ahead and try to open it from your iPhone, your Galaxy, or whatever phone you have. And when it asks you, do you want to use the e-text, take that option and check it out because you can download the textbook and have it available offline. It's kind of crazy to read all these pages online. The advantage to it is that while you're reading them, you can take out this highlighter, make yourself notes that will then be available anytime you get back onto the book in any other location. And it's pretty easy to navigate here. But check out the e-text. Yeah, just check it out. All right, what I'm saying here is going to be posted on YouTube, where I have some other videos on how to use certain tools that we have available. You can check those videos out anytime you want. I don't know if I still have any secrets from last semester in there, but my YouTube channel is entitled My Math Professor. You don't need to subscribe or any junk like that. And here I already showed the Piazza page. Well, let me see if there's just anything else I need to go over with you. You know, I think that's really enough. I'll just say these last few comments because I want you to get the feeling like you're supported, not that you should be overwhelmed. So I'm going on and on about this orientation because I want you to feel like, okay, there's a lot going on here, but he can clearly show me what tools I have and how I can get support. In the Dropbox, I'll have files for you. Some of these things are called pencasts, where I can explain something to you with this LiveScribe digital pen. That will be helpful. I also have some old notes in there. Those are good because at times I will take a PowerPoint page when someone asks me a question, and the PowerPoints are great. These are the publisher provided PowerPoints. And I'll go over the PowerPoint, and as I discuss things, I'll save the PowerPoint and the video that I used to discuss them. So you'll kind of have the during when you watch the video, and then the after where you can go back through and see what kind of annotations I made to discuss shortcuts or other key tips. All right, well, if you have any other questions, you're going to want to contact me. Sooner or later, that contact will happen on Piazza by everybody, so that way we're not doing a bunch of emails back and forth. That's just crazy. The discussion board is not required, except for that you post at least one question and answer one legitimate question, not how are you doing, and then someone else answers I'm doing well, but some legitimate math statistics questions in here before the first midterm. And I'll make that clear, but you can get started right away. I'm okay with doing some introductions with each other, but this is not a Facebook page. I don't really need all that stuff. I would encourage you to put up your picture, because that just gives an element of personality. In fact, as I close here, I'll give you my personality. So, post, oh, I guess you're over there. Post some things in there, your questions, start talking to each other. Last summer, it was the first time I used this Piazza discussion board, and it was amazing. I had some top students that were just getting in there, knocking out the answers, and the answers can be rated by students and by me. I couldn't have said things better than they did, so sometimes I didn't. But other times I'd add a video, and I could support you that way. Anyway, so nice to meet you, kind of, and we'll see you later. This is that awkward part where I'm trying to close it.